appreciate this. I really do appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me and chat.
Man, it is all good, brother. I like
Yeah,
talking, especially to any the Jehovah Witness alumni.
right.
So uh,
Yeah,
it's one of those things to whereas you to have like certain people that you have that thing in common with.
right.
What I've always learned, especially when it comes to like XJW stuff, no matter how big a person channel is, no matter what their story is, I find it kind of fun to always listen to whatever story somebody puts out, because when you're a XJW, no matter what the story is, you kind of rock with it and you kind of like, yeah, I remember that, or you're like, oh,
Right.
I forgot about that, but yeah, you know what I mean. So
Right.
it's just one of those things I always look forward to.
Well, I appreciate it very much, man. I guess I mean I pretty much have it laid out. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I guess we can just get right to it and discuss what we talked about here. Um, Really, my first question to you was it's interesting because a lot of the time I spent on YouTube, especially when I was first waking up, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was looking at, XJW activism as well as, the people who are talking, of course, John Cedars, uh, XJW analyst, right? Or yeah, I believe. So yeah, there was a lot that I was watching, but then there's those funny clips that you'll see of like people going into Kingdom Halls. You see them going in there. What do they call that? Kingdom Hall crashing. You ever seen any videos like that?
Oh, I see them all the time, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're interesting. They're very entertaining. Um,
Right.
yeah. It's something that I always I get a kick out of, especially around Memorial time,
Right.
because during Memorial season, that's when it really is like a big uptick in them, and they're very interested in funny videos. So yeah.
Yeah, they're definitely entertaining. But really, my question to you about instances like that is in regards to activism. When people do take action like that in those regards, do you think that that's what we could call like effective activism? Do you really think activism like that actually can make a change within the current JW community, those who are inside the organization?
Um, in particular, I don't think that right there would cause like a big change or anything. Maybe
Right,
there's the one person that's in the congregation that hears something that sparks something and makes that one person maybe go do some research outside the Kingdom Hall. But I kind of look at it as like when you're inside the Kingdom Hall walls and
right,
somebody from outside, they've been brainwashed so much and they've been prepared so much for anybody who comes in speaking negatively of the organization or of the Kingdom Hall and Jehovah Witness religion altogether. They're so prepared for that. Like they, like the 5 to 10 minutes you may get with them, it doesn't compare to the lifelong brainwashing and preparation they've received
right.
for people to come inside their building and do stuff like that. So I personally don't see where it's helpful. Like I say, it may be one person there that's just like, wow, I never thought about that way that they said. But most people, while they're there, they instantly cut it off. They're just like, oh wow, look, I can't believe the apostates were bold enough to come in here. Uh,
Right.
like they must really hate the religion. This confirms everything I've ever been told about them. Yeah, from here on, I'm definitely gonna not listen to anything they say. So if I'm being honest, I kind of think it does more harm than good,
Right.
because it confirms things that they already believe.
Right.
Things that's wrong, you know what I mean? But the fact that it's happening to them in real time, it kind of makes it like real in their head. Like if I would give an example, if I had a girlfriend, right, and I found out that she was going to be working with my ex-girlfriend, and I told her like, yo, this is my ex-girlfriend, she's crazy, she gonna tell you all these lies, they're gonna sound like they the truth, but they all lies and you can't listen to it. I'm telling you, she just want to destroy my life and make it horrible for me. When she gets to that job and she talks to that ex-girlfriend, she could be
Right.
telling her the 100% truth, but since I prepared her to not listen and to cut it off, then at the end of the day, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
her talking is just gonna confirm the stuff that I say, no matter how messed up it is. You know what I'm saying? So
Right.
that's kind of how I feel about the Kingdom Hall crashes and cart crashes and stuff like that.
Right. Yeah, it's tough because in the end I can see like people's frustration, right? Because it's just like you're trying so hard to find any way possible to get something through to these people. I mean, they're just so like you said, brainwashed, so stuck. It's hard. There was something that I ended up doing, and I wanted to get your opinion on it because this is where I was feeling that maybe activism can try and move towards instead of the crashing and whatnot. When I was originally disfellowship, I sat there, I spoke with my mom, right? I said, oh, I'm going to take the discipline however I need to take it. It's necessary, yada, yada, yada. So that was the conversation. I ended up waking up more so after I was disfellowshipped, right? And when I found out all this information, I said, man, I have to find some way to get this information to my mother. I need to tell her, right? So what I ended up doing was after some months, almost a year, right? Her grandchild was born. Her first grandchild wasn't talking to me, nothing, all that nonsense. It was bothering me.
Wow.
I said, yeah, I know it's crazy, right? But this is what we deal with, right?
Yep.
Um, I said, how can I get through to her? So I did something kind of crazy. I ended up faking my reinstatement. No, my stepfather that lives with her, he isn't in the truth. He's, or the truth, I say,
Right,
right?
right, right.
So he's not a part of that organization. So he was kind of in on it with me, right?
Right.
I sent her a text message from an anonymous number. I got a fake number off of an application or something. Yeah. And I sent it as one of the brothers, the elders from my congregation. Now she lived all the way down in Florida, so there was really no way she could check this. She's a whole country away from me. So here I send her a text message from an elder, right, saying that oh, we just wanted to inform you that your son has been reinstated. He told us that you might not, believe him if he sent you a message, yada yada yada. So we just wanted to let you know we reinstated him. And she was after she got the text message. I mean, I worded it like tried to do it real nice. And after she got the text message, she was acting a little bit, funny. Like, is this like legit? Is this real? And I guess my stepfather, he helped me out a little bit. He kind of convinced her. He said, "Oh, he's on the phone. He wants to talk with you. Yada yada yada. He just got reinstated." So I ended up chatting with her, and she believed me for a little bit. So I let it go for a few days, and after a few days, I ended up actually letting her know. I didn't really want to keep that lie going like that. But I told her it was emotional. But I told her, look, I really wanted you to be a part of my life, of my son's life. This is what I did. I wish I didn't have to do something like this, but I did it so that I could have you as a part of my life. And to this day, even though she's not supposed to, I'm fortunate. She still talks with me. And I'm
Yeah,
able
that
to.
could have went bad. That could have went
Yeah,
really bad. She could have been like, "Oh, you lying
right,
mistake!
right,
How dare you?"
right. So, I mean, it was a risk, man. It was a
Yeah, it
risk,
was
but
definitely risk. High risk, high reward, huh?
exactly. But to this day, I'm still able to poke around a little bit, pick her brain, and bring up a lot of the issues that we have with the organization. Bring it to her attention. The child abuse, the misuse of the scriptures for like disfellowshipping doctrine and whatnot, and how it's not actually biblical. A lot of that stuff, and she thinks about it, and the whole problem is she gets what she calls confused. She doesn't like being confused, she says. But in my eyes, I don't like to push it too much. But when she says she's confused, at least to me, that means that it's getting her thinking, like, wow, something is up. She don't like that feeling. That also means that probably deep down she knows that some of the things I'm saying is right. So I guess more so now that you heard the story, my question to you is, do you think that something like that taking that kind of action, even though a lot might consider it maybe a little on the immoral side, um, is that something that you might recommend to people to try and do a little bit more of the Mission Impossible style activism instead of yelling and screaming at a Kingdom Hall?
um, I would recommend. See, the thing is that they say that apostates are so dishonest. You know, that's
Right.
one of the things that they really try to put out and put into people's mind. You know, they're deceitful. They try to trick you and things like that. So one of the biggest ways to combat uh, their doctrine and their mental brainwashing is that you got to be truthful. You know what I mean?
Right.
Now, I love the fact that you eventually came forward like truthfully, and that
Right.
she was still able to accept you, and you were able to like actually build on the situation. But I can't recommend that for the masses. You know what I mean? Because you got to realize your situation and the way it went for you most definitely probably won't go that way for
Right.
most people. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, what I would recommend as far as like people who would like other people to wake up, if I'm being completely honest with you, especially when it comes to older people, if people have been inside that organization for a really long time,
Right.
if they're happy, uh, if their entire social structure is wrapped up in the organization, if they're up in age, I don't even know if I would attempt to wake them up. You know what I
Right.
mean? Like I
Right.
would be, it would bring me personal joy if I could wake my mother up personally, you know?
Right.
But what does that mean for her? That means she'd have to start over from scratch, you know? Like the people that come over her house, all Jehovah's Witnesses. The people
Right.
who help her when she needs help, our family, we do a lot. And I doubt if she stopped, you know, listening to like Watchtower that we stop doing that. Like I don't think anybody on my side of the family would stop doing that. Even the believers, I don't think anybody would turn their back on our mother. But you know, like it's more to it than that. You know what I mean? Like you're giving up everything, and not only that, now you have to come to the realization and deal with things that you did not deal with appropriately when it happened. Like when my pops died, you know what I mean?
Right.
Where I'm like, you know, I can reflect on the life we had, and I could be happy with what I gained from him at the time. She's never dealt with that. She's just like, I'm gonna see him in a new system.
Right.
And that goes for any and everybody through the entire span of her her Jehovah Witness career. You know what I mean? So
Right.
just imagine having to embrace and take on all the emotions of all the things you've never appropriately dealt with in your life. So it may be to the best to just not even, you know what I mean, just let them be happy, you know, in the twilight
Right.
of your life, let them be happy. But as far as people who are younger, um I I like to, you know, use logic and questions, you know what I mean?
Right.
And if you consider yourself to be a logical person, and if you consider yourself to be somebody who actually wants the truth, and who actually, even, and it don't matter if you're an atheist, it don't matter if you're a believer, if you're a person that wants the truth, even more so if you're a theist and you believe in the Bible and you believe what the Bible says, then I got so many things to tell you, you know? Like if you're an atheist, you're probably out of the organization already. But
Right.
if you're somebody who believes in the Bible, then I mean, it's just simple things. Like, can you really tell me that it's a position of God to have a mother and a child not be with each other? Is that a realistic position that a almighty God, an all loving, all powerful, all wise God, is that a position he would take?
Right.
Would an all loving, all just, like he is justice, you know what I mean? Like he is fair to the 10th degree, the most fair you could ever be. Would it be
That's what they
fair for
say.
him to create 9 billion people and only tell you you can hang out with 8 million of them?
That's it.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's not
Right.
fair. It's not reasonable. It's not logical. And even if your hope is to one day meet all the dead people and you're going to be so happy when you get to see them, it's going to be paradise. It's going to be the greatest euphoria you could ever feel. You don't have to wait till you get to the new system. If you would just speak to the people who are disfellowship now, if you would just go and speak and just go to dinner with your daughter, go to dinner with your grandkids, go to dinner with your grandson that you've cut off and you ain't talked to and ain't heard from in 10, 20 years. You know what I mean? There's a bunch of stories out there like this. You could have your paradise right now. You could go up and it will feel like paradise. You know what I mean? Because this organization takes away people's paradise right now. If you went and you got you a job and you stop putting all your energy and effort into looking out for the organization that does not look out for you, mind you, and you actually go out and you get a nice career and you go out and you live the life you want to live, you can take them trips to Jamaica and Hawaii and Turks and Caicos and all these other exotic, amazing places and be in an actual paradise. With people you actually love. Like, it's literally right there. You don't have to wait for something that, if we're being honest, they've been telling us we're going to be there for years.
More decades, man.
Decades. Like,
century,
I mean, literally centuries. 1914, that's 100, that's over 100 years ago, bro.
Yep.
So when you think about that, you realize logically, like, wow, I'm spending all this time when I can actually put my education like to the forefront, put my ability to gain knowledge and gain money and gain relationships with people no matter what, you know, religion they believe in or whatever. And you can have your paradise right now. There's a lot of people who sacrifice their paradise for something that, if we're being logical, may not come.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I recommend to, when you're dealing with other people, to just stay away from anything that would confirm something that they were told about, you know, ex-Jehovah Witnesses, because I don't even accept the term apostate. Like, I don't like to refer to myself as an apostate, because if we're in that, and that's just the truthful thing, because according to their definition, an apostate is a diseased mind, lying, deceiving son of Satan.
Right.
I don't believe in Satan, so can't be the son of Satan. I don't lie. I try to be as truthful and honest with people every time I talk to them. And even if I put out information that I find out later is incorrect, I'll delete it. You know what I mean? So I try to stay away from anything that will confirm something that they've been told, especially the stuff that's just outright lies. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because what happens is, when people come up to you and they have that predisposition that they for years been told, and you don't meet that, it makes people like, wait, like start to think. And that's what we want people to do. We always want people to think. That's why that's why I do my comedy in the first place, because they're told that people that lead the organization, they're depressed and they're hurt and they, you know what I mean? Like, they just having the worst time in the world. I'm not. I'm pretty happy. And I like to share that happiness, and I like people to see me, because you don't know how many times in my comments they're like, oh, he's faking it.
Right.
He's not really happy. He's just mad because he's lost Jehovah love. No, I'm really happy. Like, I'm seriously really happy. So anyway, to get back to the subject, stay truthful. You know, you got enough ammunition and resources to do and accomplish whatever goal you have, as far as like waking up somebody, by just being truthful. And you got to be patient. And the way that people get brainwashed in the first place is it has to come with their own participation. You have to participate in your own brainwashing. There's steps to it.
Right.
And the same way you have to participate in your own brainwashing, you have to participate in your own awakening. You have to be able to say, okay, I'm willing to be wrong, and I'm willing to look up any information and compare and contrast and see what's the right information. You have to be willing to do that.
Right.
So
that makes awesome sense. I mean, it's tough, because I completely agree with what you're saying. I think the problem is finding that right? Because I'm not sure if it's necessarily the problem of using that ammunition that we have to speak with them. and to slowly kind of how they say it when they're trying to preach, right? They say, oh, we got to slowly water the seed little bit by little bit. Let it grow slowly, patiently. That's kind of what we can do, but the whole problem is them letting us in to plant those seeds. That's the issue. And I think that was the hard time I was having. I think with like what you said, it does involve patience. Sometimes maybe after years or maybe up to a decade, they'll eventually reach out, maybe send you a letter or maybe a text saying, come back to Jehovah, right? But in the end, I always found it just going through my brain thinking, what are the best ways for us to have an in to be able to talk with them? That's what I struggled with, and that's why I felt that I had to come up with this kind of Mission Impossible style get back in touch with, because it's all about finding that in to start planting those seeds. Now maybe like you said, it wasn't the best way because it kind of feeds into that whole idea of this is what apostates are, right? I felt that maybe more so the whole idea of going up to a kingdom hall or to a cart and yelling and screaming and arguing. I always felt that that more so embodied what people would normally think of an apostate, especially like with what you were saying, how they call us mentally diseased, right?
Yeah.
Um, but in the end, like dishonesty is a part of that too. So it's difficult. The organization really makes it difficult for us, especially trying to rekindle those relationships with family members and whatnot. I remember, to go along with what you mentioned before, when I was talking to my mom, I was asking her some questions, and she said, like, I have this hope, like I care about seeing my father again, is what she told me, right? Like I want
Hmm.
to see my father again. I want to
Hmm.
see my family again in the new system. And in my eyes, I told her, I said, you have family here, right here and now, that you're cutting off.
Yeah.
You know, you have this hope of looking forward to this dead family member to see them again, but to gain
Yeah.
that, you're cutting off your current family that you have right
Yeah.
now.
Yeah.
So I think that got her thinking a little bit, but it's very interesting, man. It's just it's disheartening. I know it's tough, and like you said, each situation is different. For
Yeah.
older people who've been in the organization for decades and are coming in towards the end of their time,
Yeah.
um, yeah, like you said, I wouldn't recommend trying to wake them
Yeah.
up because I'm a bit younger, my mom's a bit younger, but even still, like having to come to realizations at a younger age, like me or you. I mean, I know I think you're fairly young too. So
Middle
I mean,
age.
right there you go. But when we had to come to certain realizations, just like, wow, everything I was taught since childhood is wrong. I missed a lot of my childhood. I didn't get to do the
Yeah.
things that I would have loved to do as a kid, whether it was go to sporting,
Yeah.
playing sports during school, or
Yeah.
you know, practicing the holidays, whatever the case is. Um, it's tough, and even having to come to terms with the idea of death. This was something I
Yeah.
spoke with one of my friends about. I didn't really think about it too much when we had this hope of being able to live forever.
Yeah.
Um, the idea of mortality.
Yeah.
But yeah, once you leave, once you wake up, it's something that you end up thinking about. Like, wow,
Yeah.
this is all I got. This is it, man.
Yeah. And it's crazy because like the stuff that comes to mind, like that most people already kind of know and dealt with when they were way younger, we find ourselves dealing with it at a much older age. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I remember when I was a Jehovah Witness, nobody was talking about like working out all the time and being healthy and you know what I mean, and taking
Right.
care of yourself so later on in life you'll be straight because you're like, man, by the time I get that age, it's no way I would have known that I'd be 37 years old. You know what I mean? I'd
Right.
been like, it's no way. By the time I'm 20, it's probably gonna be like the Great Tribulation or whatever. But see, another thing is that um, like when people have been inside the organization for a certain length of time, like I was only in, and I say only like it's a not a long time, but I was only in for 28 years. That
Right.
means that from the time I was born to the time I was 28, I was given to this organization. Imagine people that have been in for 40, 50 years. You know what I mean? When you give that much to this organization, after a certain point, mentally, it can't be wrong. You
Right.
refuse to listen to somebody trying to tell you it's not right. Because even if you agree with the stuff they're saying, you know how hard it is to come to the realization that you've wasted that much time and that much energy. And that, just imagine paying into a fund that they tell you, like, in 10 years you get $1 million, right? And
Right.
every week for 10 years you pay into this fund. And then 10 years come and you stop getting text messages. Do you know how long it's gonna take before you just admit you got?
Right.
You're gonna call, first you're gonna call them, then you're gonna send them a text, then you're gonna look them up on the internet.
Send some
You're gonna
emails.
do everything possible before you just admit you got. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's that with the Jehovah Witnesses, but on a much bigger scale. Just think about what they would have to deal with. The same way you're just like, man, I got to deal with the fact that, yeah, I'm gonna die. You know,
Right.
like, imagine that, but tenfold. Because now you got to deal with the fact that you're gonna, eventually perish. Now you got to deal with the fact that all the people who you thought you were gonna see in the new system, you're not gonna see them.
Right.
Now you got to deal with the fact, man, I've cut off my kids for the last 4 or 5 years. Imagine somebody who let their kid die refusing blood. How do you have that
Right.
conversation? How do you have, you will not, you will look up any and take any and every excuse to not have to deal with that. You know what I mean? This is
Right.
another form of brainwashing that they do. This is another thing that they do to keep people inside the organization. They make people invest so much into the organization that they just can't be wrong now. Like, no, I refuse to have to ever deal with things I'm gonna have to deal with if I wake up and realize that this organization is wrong. So people that's been inside the organization for that long, if they elderly, if they happy, just let them be happy, man. Just let them be happy. But if they younger and they got some time that they can recover, or they got some young kids that could be saved from the organization,
Right.
just little bit by little bit, you can have those conversations if they're open to them. But once again, it's one of those things to whereas they have to come to you, because if you go to them, it's a good chance they may cut you off. It got to
Right.
be one of those conversations, and little bit by little bit, maybe they'll wake up. But from my experience, it always happens when people come to my channels and they watch my videos and I make some crazy point or something, and they're like, wow, I never thought about it that way.
Right.
Stuff like that. They can't come to that realization at the Kingdom Hall or at a field service. They
True.
invested. They're inside of their, like, safety bubble or whatever, That's why they don't want people on the internet by themselves in the middle of the night. And like, oh, you may look at pornography, or you may look at an XJW apostate video or something, and you get,
Right.
next thing you know, you out of the truth.
That's it.
The truth.
Gone.
So yeah, man. It's a hard question. Like, I don't think there is a one thing you can say to somebody that's gonna get them to wake up. If it was,
Right.
people would have said it.
True.
It just takes
Yeah.
people coming on their own and just asking the right questions and be willing to accept the right answer. That's pretty much it.
Right. Yeah, it's difficult, man. They just make life a lot more difficult for us. I think it's interesting to see, like, in recent times. I think the just from the news that we've been receiving, it feels like the organization itself is kind of starting to fold in on itself, which it would be kind of interesting to see, because there's a lot of people from, from my congregations from since when I was a kid. They've just been so devout, and I've recently seen them coming out, leaving, people who are, middle-aged, halfway through their life, but they're just like, with husbands as elders and whatnot. They're just making these decisions now because I think just with the times that we live in right now, we have so much information so readily available to us. And we have people who are willing to put that information out there right in front of our faces. Like, for instance, the documentary that came out not too long ago, The
The
Witnesses, right?
witnesses, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I mean, fantastic. It was
yeah.
wonderful, man. And I think it's an interesting time we live in. So it's interesting to see. I seen your video about what that letter to the elders said, right? About changing that
From
the
members
term,
to individuals.
right? I mean, it definitely feels like a legal loophole that they're trying to pull there.
Oh, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely, 100%. They're definitely, and this is crazy because in the Bible, when Judas, well, not Judas, when Peter like was like, "Hey, I don't know Jesus" or whatever, that was looked down
right,
upon, right? Like to separate yourself from the organization or from the people. Like either way it go, it's supposed to be unity there. You know what I mean? But
right.
this is obviously a legal way of separating themselves from the people, you know? Like, oh,
True.
you know, well, that individual did that, not that
That's
member
it.
of our organization. You know, yeah, it's a slick legal move, but it's a dirty move though. You know what I mean?
Right,
And stuff like that, it amazes me because if I was a devout Jehovah Witness, that to me would be somebody not showing a bold witness, and that should infuriate God, you know, because you're not looking for God's protection. You're willing to hurt your credibility in the congregation and not, you know, wait till God comes and save you, right? Like if you
right.
believe in God, he's all powerful, all knowing, all just, like all wise. He can fix that. Why are you taking these steps? You know what I'm saying? That destroys that. So it amazes me that people like really give them credit. They've done so many things to discredit themselves. I guess it's because they don't really have knowledge of it. It's like when they see things starting to go negative about the organization, they just cut it off. You know what I mean?
Right,
It's like, that looks like it's gonna go negative. Let me just not pay attention to that. And let me
right.
just go read a Watchtower or a Bible or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
But but yeah, they've done a lot of things to discredit themselves, and it's amazing how far they're willing to go to protect their money and not their people.
Right, right. Yeah, that's a big thing. It disgusts me. I know a while back it was probably something that you ended up making a video on. That case in Montana about the woman who didn't end up receiving that what was it, 30 million, I think they originally agreed to.
Yeah, Candace Conti. Yeah,
Right.
the Supreme Court decided to uphold the Jehovah Witnesses religious standard or
Clergy.
something like that. Yeah, the
Right.
clergy.
Clergy
And
law.
yeah, so basically they were willing they were willing to allow these horrible things to happen. And basically all we're asking for is the same thing that therapists and lawyers and other people like that have to hold themselves, you know, to. Like, okay, if you go to your therapist and you say, I'm gonna hurt myself or I'm gonna
Right.
hurt somebody else, by law, your therapist has to report that to the police.
Yep.
By law, to save your life or to
Right.
save another person's life. If you're a Jehovah Witness and you say, hey, I did something to a kid, the messed up part is that if you just asking questions in the organization, they'll give a talk. They'll call you out. You will be marked in the congregation. Hey, we're going to mark an individual here for, you know, being kind of dangerous. They're not accepting the elders' counsel. And they do that to quote unquote protect the organization. But
Right.
if somebody is an admitted child predator, or if it's somebody in there who's been known to prey on kids or young people, or just not just they're bad to women or bad, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
they will not make that announcement. That announcement doesn't get made. So are you really trying to protect the organization? Because somebody hearing some stuff that they ain't supposed to hear, how is that more dangerous than an actual literal child predator?
Right.
Because a lot of times people who do something to kids or something like that, if they see a situation to whereas that child could like let somebody else know what happened to prevent going to jail, they'll kill that kid. They'll kill
Right.
him. Like it's literally a life and death matter. Not to mention the mental scarring if they don't get killed. You know what I mean? But
Right.
the problem comes in is that you can see that their goal isn't really to protect the organization or protect the people in the organization. Their goal is to protect the organization. They're more worried about people leaving than they are than keeping the people that's there safe. You know what I mean?
Right.
That shouldn't make sense on anybody's like register. You know what's gonna mean? Like, that's crazy. But it's
It's
true.
disgusting.
Yeah,
It's just
100%.
disgusting. And it's really amazing that a lot of the time the witnesses they'll look at something like this. You know, it's inevitable. They'll run across something like this with how much it's out there now. You know, I actually sat down. My mom came to visit. She sat down with me, and I put on the first episode of The Witnesses. I said, "Look, you know," I said, she was
We're
actually
watching
willing,
this.
right? Yeah, we are watching this right now. And she sat down and she was watching it with me. And I mean, I knew she felt a little uncomfortable, but I seen that she was definitely intrigued. She saw that it looked very legit. The information was legitimate. Um, it was interesting to see her reaction, but it's also interesting to see not only from her reaction, but a lot of the times from most witnesses, they just turn to the imperfection um,
Yeah,
excuse, right?
yeah, yeah.
Imperfect men. They make mistakes, you know, where the organization isn't run by perfect men. And it just baffles me because I just had a conversation with her, I believe yesterday, last night. And I said, I remember back when I was baptized, one of the questions involved me understanding that I was dedicating my life to God's spirit directed organization, right? That was the words that they used, spirit directed organization. And I asked her, I said, if this is God's spirit directed organization and his Holy Spirit is guiding these men in how to make policies, how to portray doctrine from the Bible, then they would never make a mistake, whether or not they were imperfect, right? Because when we look at the Bible, right, they say, if I sat there and said, were the men who wrote the Bible perfect? She says, no, of course not. I said, so does that mean is the Bible perfect?
That's the perfect. Yeah, that's the
Right?
perfect question to ask. Yeah.
Right. She says, of course the Bible's perfect. So I said, you said imperfect men wrote the Bible, yet the Bible is a perfect book, right? I said, why is that the case? Oh, well, because it's all inspired, right? All scripture is inspired of God through his Holy Spirit. I said, right. So if the Bible is perfect, even though imperfect men wrote it because of God's Holy Spirit's guidance, then shouldn't that mean that his organization should also be perfect if it's a spirit-directed organization, even though it's imperfect men? And she didn't really have anything to say to that. You know, she sat there and then she says, oh, I don't like when you confuse me.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm telling you, because
So,
that's the thing. You start making sense. You start making sense, and you have to now deal with the logic, because no matter what they say, there are questions that the Jehovah Witnesses just can't answer. Like, you
right,
can't have your cake and eat it too. Either it's a perfect organization or it's not. Because if the organization is perfect, right, then you can't question nothing. It's perfect. They're not going to make any
right,
mistakes. Only problem is if they've made mistakes. A lot of them. They've needed new
many,
light and all this other stuff. So if they, from time to time, may get it wrong, then you should 100% be able to ask questions. You know
right,
what I mean? Like, if you get stuff wrong sometimes and somebody says, hey, you sure you're right about that? You can't get on them like, hey, don't question me unless you've never been wrong. And that's the thing. Like I said, you just can't have your cake and eat it too. Either it's perfect or it's not. And that's the fallback line, because whenever you point out the imperfections and the wrong things that's happening, instead of saying, you know what, we're not perfect and we're going to deal with those things we got wrong, it's not even that. It's just, hey, we're not perfect. I'm like, okay,
that's it,
okay, we can admit that you're not perfect. Are you going to deal with the things you got wrong? No, we're just going to move forward knowing we're not perfect. Like,
right,
wait, no. That's not how it works.
nope,
If you're wrong and you find out something is wrong, you fix it. You don't just move forward like, well, I got it wrong, I guess. Like, oh
right,
man, I put my car tire on wrong, and now my car is wobbling. Oh well, I guess next time.
I'm imperfect.
No,
I'm
right?
imperfect.
I'm imperfect. No, you pull that car over and you fix it. It's
Right.
crazy, man. But yeah, that's the fallback line I hear all the time, because when you start pointing out all the things that's wrong, we're imperfect, So hey, man,
Yeah.
it is what it is, man.
It makes no sense to me, man. But I mean, this is their logic. This is what they use. So I mean, good for them. But I think in the end, like with what we were saying before, I think it's starting to fall through the cracks now. I think a lot of people are catching on to this lack of logic that's being used here. They're seeing it. They're seeing it, and a lot of people would be surprised to know how many people are what we would call PMO, right? Physically and mentally out. Um, I was surprised to see how many that we have that's in the organization that just don't believe any of it. Mainly there for their family, right? So,
That should be a big reason why people should leave too. Like the fact that it even opens up the door to like somebody coming back to the organization, not because they love God and not because they love the organization and want to be part of the organization, but so they could speak and talk and be around their family.
right,
Does that sound like, first off, if anybody that's outside the organization hears that, that means that they'll immediately be like, wow, your organization holds people captive. You're not with God. And they always talk about stumbling people, like we don't want to stumble anybody. We don't want to bring reproach on Jehovah's name. What's more reproach than that?
right.
To keep people, first off, Jesus was 30 years old when he got baptized. How are you accepting the baptism of a 12-year-old or a 9-year-old?
Yep,
Like they're not, and then hold them to it. Like, and like, yo, I'm not ready to make lifelong decisions at 9 years old.
right,
Nobody is. I don't care who you say oh well, he kept his baptism his entire life. Nah, that's too young, bro. That's too young.
right,
And if you not allow them to leave, how do you know somebody's there because they love God? And how do you know they just not there because they, just want to be around their family and friends? You know what I mean? So it
right,
brings reproach on it brings reproach on religion. It discredits them easily, and yet people are still in. It's brainwashing, man. To be able to see this thing, because these are all things I thought when I was deep inside the organization. I was
right.
completely in. I'm like, man, if I wanted to leave, I couldn't, right? like, like how do you leave? Like I remember asking people that, like, if somebody just don't want to do this no more, they literally can't leave. Like that's kind of messed up, don't you think?
It's screwy, man. It's screwy. I mean, not 11 years old when I got baptized, and I remember one of the main reasons I was getting baptized was really just to look good, right? It was just in my mind. It was just like, oh,
Yeah,
this is what I'm supposed to do. How cool
yeah,
would it be for me to be baptized so young? Everybody would
yeah,
put me up on a pedestal, right?
yep, yep. I was
And
12.
right. I
My
mean, this is
an elder at my Kingdom Hall told my father that the only reason I'm not baptized or interested in getting baptized was because I was probably a gangbanger. And my father
wow,
told me that. He was like,
wow,
I'm gonna keep my eyes on you close, because he believed him. He was like, I'm gonna make sure I keep my eyes on you close. He was come to my room, look through my stuff, see if I had drugs and guns up in there. And I'm like, yo, what are you doing? He's like, hey, you ain't baptized. I mean, I gotta see if you out here doing that demonic gangbanging stuff. So I literally
wow,
got baptized just to shut him up.
right.
Just to be
And,
like, see, told you.
and I mean, we don't understand at that age that we're really just signing our life away to a
We
verbal
don't.
contract.
We don't. They shouldn't
Right,
accept a baptism younger than 30. They shouldn't.
right.
The
I
only
agree.
problem is you think people gonna get baptized at 30, or they gonna learn before then? Like, yeah. See, that's the problem. If
Right,
you gonna follow Jesus' example, he could have got baptized when he was young. You remember he was at the temple. They were looking for him. They couldn't find him, and he was at the
right.
temple. That shows right there that he was really into the religion, right? He was really taking
True.
it serious. He could have
Right.
got baptized then, right?
Yep.
But did he? He waited till he was 30.
Right.
And this is the thing, I don't even believe in the Bible.
Yep. Yep. Me either.
I'm an atheist.
Yep.
But the point is, is that if you look at things logically, if you're going to say this organization follows Jesus' example, why are they accepting 9-year-old baptisms when Jesus was 30 when he got baptized?
Yep.
Why are they disfellowshipping people? I don't remember Jesus disfellowshipping anybody. I remember him sitting with the tax collectors and washing feet and stuff like that.
Right. The prostitutes, right? The
All that,
prostitutes.
yep, healing
Yep.
people. It was a one lady, she was on her cycle and she couldn't get it to stop. Nobody was supposed to even touch her.
Right.
You're talking about like following, like giving your life for the blood transfusion. Nobody was even supposed to touch her. And she like touched Jesus' outer garment and healed herself.
Yep.
And he didn't get mad at her for doing that, even though it was technically illegal. He didn't get mad at her at all. He was just like, he was happy that she was healed and moved on.
Right.
So, I mean, come on, man. They really not trying to follow his example, not the way he's supposed to.
No, man. It's funny. It's
Top
funny.
to bottom, man. It's crazy.
Right. So I mean, it is craziness. I do hope that in coming years, hopefully even sooner, that we'll find some new ways that we can really reach out to our loved ones, and maybe in the end it'll just collapse in on itself, and they'll all realize soon, what's been going on this whole time. But I know there was one last thing that I wanted to chat with you about, and it might be a little divisive to the to the audience, whoever we got watching. Right.
I already know.
It was interesting. Right. Yeah, it's interesting. Um, it's about like politics, right?
Yep.
Political discussion. I 100, and just to put it out there right now, you know, I don't know why it took me so long to realize that you were wearing a Bears shirt, and here I am wearing a Green
I
Bay
was
hat.
waiting for you to bring it up. I was waiting for it. I'm like, he gonna just sit here with this Green Bay Packers hat. I can't stop looking at it. I got my, and this is the thing. This is just a shirt I put on today. I didn't think for a second, especially when your team is like just whooping up on everybody. You scoring 40 every week. My team, we're on our second quarterback.
You're doing good, man. Nick Foles.
No, we're not. We are supposed to be. We're supposed to be one. We supposed to lost to the first game. We supposed to lost the second game. We definitely supposed to lost to Atlanta. We got pounded by somebody.
Right.
In Tampa Bay, we actually did good. So I would say we should be like 1-4 right now. We should. We should be, but we're 4-1, so I'll take it.
Right. Yeah, I thought that was funny, man.
Yeah,
but yeah. So I find it interesting because not too long ago you posted your political discussion video, right, about Trump catching COVID.
Right.
I like it's funny to me because I 100% respect like everybody's opinion, man. I think it's important nowadays because we just see so much division, man. I don't know necessarily where it comes from. I guess either side would point fingers and say, oh, it's this side, oh, it's this side, it's this person, that person. But I think it is important that a lot of people do respect each other's opinions. I guess my question to you is in regards to like political discussion within the XJW community. And I know you don't want to necessarily specifically, like any content creator, really want to just be stuck to one subject that they have to talk about the rest of their career, right? But how do you do that when you've like built your audience, your community, right? How can you then take something maybe as divisive as politics with an audience that might go either way? You might have some on each side, right? How can you put your views out there in a way that also prevents division within your community
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. There is no way to do that.
Right.
If I were a greedy, kind of messed up person, I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
Because everybody has an opinion.
True.
And your audience has an opinion. There's going to be difference on either side. You know what I mean?
Right.
So to please everybody, you sit down and you shut up. You know what I mean?
True.
But my problem is I was a Jehovah Witness for 28 years.
Right.
So I've sat down and I shut up for a long time. And I enjoy like talking to people. You know what I mean?
Right.
I enjoy expressing myself. Now, if we're going, if I was to talk to people about uh, a subject like politics, there's a couple things you need to realize about people. All right, it's not really about politics. It's more about the interaction with another human being. So, if you're talking to somebody and they're on the level of knowing how to communicate, like this is the thing, most people don't know how to communicate. Most
Right.
people, for the most part, do not know how to communicate. If you hear something that you don't like, your reaction should not be to shut down the conversation
Right.
or to get mad and angry. Your reaction should be to ask questions, find out why they believe what they believe.
True.
Because this is the thing, at the end of the day, you may learn something that you didn't know.
Right.
And if you don't learn something that you didn't know, then you now see where they're coming from. And now you could probably better explain your position now knowing where they're coming from.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you can't let, if you feel yourself getting emotionally involved inside of the conflict or whatever, then it's not going to go forward. Because eventually people get into a position to whereas I'm defending my position and they're defending their position. So
Right.
then there's not an exchange of information. And if we're not exchanging information no longer, then I don't care what you say. I'm not going to go to your side. And you're going
Right.
to feel the same way. I don't care what you say. I'm not going to go. So at this point,
Right.
now we're just yelling at each other. You know what
Yeah.
I
It's
mean?
not
And it's
moving
a
forward.
useless conversation and it's a waste of everybody's time.
Right.
So if you're going to talk about politics, explain your position. Hopefully you got information. If you don't have information, say you don't have information and move
Right.
on, or wait
Right.
till some information comes along. Like the stuff that I like to put out there and the stuff that I put out, because a lot of people will tell me like, and this is me giving my position away, like, Jay, you just hate Trump. You hate Trump. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that's the ending of the argument. Now I dislike the guy, but I have
Right.
reasons for it. If you would like to know the reasons, I'll give you the reasons.
Right.
And the thing is when I give you the reasons, I look forward to hearing what your argument is against it.
Right.
Now, the problem is that a lot of times when I get into certain like back and forth with people, they'll not only throw, because this is the thing, this is how a conversation works. If you want to tell me something, tell me one thing, okay? And then we can break down that one thing, all right? But that's not how a lot of conversations go. A person tell me 20 different things.
Right.
And I'm like, I could tell you all those things are wrong. But
Yeah.
who has the time and energy to break down 20 things? You know what I mean? So
Right.
it takes conversations. The conversations have to be respectful. Each person has to be patient. Each person has to be willing to be wrong and embrace information. Like if I get into a conversation with somebody and they tell me, I don't care what you say, I'm not changing my mind, then we don't really have nothing to talk about then.
Right.
Because we should both be in a position to whereas I could be wrong. You know what I mean? And if we're both in a position of we can be wrong, now we can exchange information. We can hear what each other say. If somebody says something and you don't believe it's true, write it down, look it up, research it.
Right.
And if they can provide evidence to help you research it, accept the evidence and look at it, you know?
Right.
And this is how the political conversations stop from going into these, back and forths. And it has to, like, respect has to be maintained during the entire thing. Because I see a lot of conversations, they're over before they even start.
True.
Because the first thing the other person says is, oh, you just a dumb Biden supporter. Or you're just a dumb trumpet. You know what I'm saying? Like, when that's the first thing you say, where do you think this conversation is going to go?
Right. Right.
Straight up. Like, it's not going to go anywhere but down. Like, it's an argument already. You've already put this person in the defensive stand. You came in a defensive stand, and it's not going to work. So, like, I've done a lot of like research into politics, especially ever since Trump got in the office. And not to blame Trump, but this is something that I think should be said.
Right.
We could both agree that Trump is probably the most different president we've ever had, right? We've never had a president like that, right?
Right. True.
Never. If you had a box, right? And every time you put a chicken in, you get an egg out, right? Every time you put that chicken in, they go by, an egg come out, right?
Right.
If you put something else in there that's never been in there, and you don't even know what it is, you just put it in the box and you close it. Do you expect the egg to come out, or do you expect something you've never seen come out?
Right. True.
That's what it is. Trump, we've never seen anybody like Trump. We've never seen anybody behave like Trump, think like Trump, talk like Trump. So we're going to get a presidency, and we're going to have an America that we've never seen before. Like,
Right.
how often have you heard it recently where people are like, yo, this is unprecedented. We've
Right.
never seen anything like this. We've never heard anything like this. So when people wonder why things are so divisive now, why things are just uncomfortable and we're not used to, it's because simply we're not used to having somebody like that as president.
Right.
So and this ain't, like I say, this ain't a bash against Trump. It's just reasonable and logical. Like, we've never had somebody like that. So
Right.
we're gonna get something that we've never had before.
Right.
And it's unpredictable and it's scary.
Yep.
Like, I'm telling you,
Yep.
I've never been into politics this much, and it's mostly because, like, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know where this is gonna go. You know what I mean? Like Obama, George Bush, all the presidents going back in my lifetime, I didn't need to watch the news. I didn't need to, you know what I mean, keep up with what's going on. And I also didn't have the internet. A 24-hour news cycles, you know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's just one of those things to where you could expect the unexpected, you know?
Right.
So yeah, people are gonna, it's gonna be divisive. People are gonna dig their heels in because, like I say, some people love the guy. Yeah. And there's no middle ground. And one of the things I like to talk about as far as Trump is like, he's not a normal president because he's a celebrity. You know what I mean?
Right. Right.
Like, if you look at somebody like Chris Brown, who's a celebrity, people that love Chris Brown will let Chris Brown get away with anything he wants to.
Right.
People that hate Chris Brown, I don't care if he like accidentally trips over his own feet. Look at this dirty punk out here tripping over feet. You know what I'm saying? Like, he could do no wrong. He could do no right. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And because Chris Brown usually enjoys the benefits of his celebrity from his fans, he don't really cater to the people that don't like him. He don't even pretend to be okay with him. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I get that from Trump a lot. Like, Trump, the people that love him, he loves. He gives them love. He shows them love. He look out for them. And the people who don't love him, he does not. He does not even try to like make it, like, you know what I mean? Like,
appeal to them, right?
Yeah, at all. At all. And that's the thing. All the other presidents, even though you didn't like them, even though they knew people didn't like them, they tried. You know what I'm saying? They tried to play both sides. Trump doesn't do that.
Right.
Trump is like, yo, this is my base. This is what my base wants, and I'm gonna fulfill whatever needs my base got. I'm doing it. I don't care what nobody says. I'm doing it. And that's how celebrities are. That's how celebrities behave. That's how he's used to behaving. It is what it is. You know what I mean?
Right. That's interesting. I guess, I did learn something because I never thought about it, that idea of the celebrity mentality, right? That whole concept and that being brought into the presidency. I guess you could say maybe the closest we've ever had to the concept of Trump maybe was Reagan back in the 80s.
Yeah.
Just because he was an actor as well, coming into politics.
Yeah.
Obviously held himself a little differently. But,
yeah, he was a little bit more presidential. But back then, they talked funny and behaved funny, So that was an entire new, different wave. Now it's different. Like I say, Trump changed it. Trump probably changed it forever. But
yeah, Absolutely. He changed a lot, man. I think it's interesting. It's funny because you go back to 2016. I was surprised at how many witnesses actually, because I was still in at the time. This was before I was disfellowship. Actually, were following so closely.
Sorry about that, my phone.
No, no, no. You're good. If you need to leave, just let me know. Whatever the case might be. I don't
Okay.
want to take too much of your time. But I just remember there was my one friend. He was just so he's just so into being a witness, right? That was his one thing, and he was one of those very judgmental people too. Like if you went out and seen a naughty movie or something, he found the tickets in your
Telling
room.
on you.
Yeah, that's right. But I remember we were playing video games one night, and he over the video game, he's following on his computer closely the race between Hillary and Trump, and he's
Wow.
rooting so hard for Hillary. He's like, oh no, Trump's taking it. And I'm just
Wow.
I'm just like,
Yeah,
it was
don't remind me.
right. It amazed me. It amazed me how hard he was. Like, I never really cared either way. I was kind of always an in between on the fence guy in the truth either way. So I could care less what he was doing. But I thought it was funny how many people, even in the witnesses, were following it so closely.
Mm.
Um, yeah, man, it just amazes me. It just the one thing that concerns me with everything that's going on right now, especially, is as long as you still got time to talk,
Yeah, yeah, go
you
ahead.
good?
Yeah. I probably be good for another 10 minutes and I gotta go make the kids some dinner.
Good, good. That sounds good. Um, I remember earlier this year, of course, when George Floyd died, right?
Mhm.
I think no matter if we get into the specifics of anything, of the whole case and all the videos that are coming out now, whatever, at that time, it probably to me was one of the more unifying things going on in the country. I think no matter what, almost everybody, and I know a lot of Trump supporters and a lot of Democrats, they all felt the same way, just like, wow, this was terrible. That should have
Mhm.
never happened. Here's what bothered me though, because after that point, like I was for the Black Lives Matter movement, everything that was going on. I was like, this has to change, and this is coming from me too. It's kind of funny, despite me being of lighter skin tone, I've been harassed a lot by police officers in the past too, up here where I live.
Mhm.
I completely agreed. I said something needs to change with these police officers, man. Something
Mhm.
needs to happen. And then all of a sudden, I felt like something changed a little bit in terms of narrative and how people were feeling. I remember, because my wife is black, my son is half black. She has, family from Trinidad, right?
Mhm.
Her niece comes over. She's hanging out at our house. I'm watching some TikToks, and on one of the TikToks, it was somebody talking about how white people are the enemy. It was a black person saying, "Oh, white people are the enemy." And I remember she was looking over my shoulder, and she looked up at me. She said, and she's 11 years old. She said, "Oh well, they are the enemy." She said, "Except for you, uncle. Except for you, uncle." I said, but
Uh,
in my eyes, this is what bothered me a little bit, because I was for the whole idea of unification and trying to fix these problems, and I felt like the unification that we saw at that time is exactly what we needed to fix the racial injustices and problems with the police force that we see today. Um, but I felt like it took a turn. I felt like people ended up viewing it a lot more as not just white police officers or not just police officers. It went from police officers to white police officers, then from white police officers to white people, and then a lot of, oh, this is more so retribution for slavery over 100 years ago, revenge. I didn't take well to that, and I was wondering. I said, well, what's going on here? Because I was for this before, and I want to be on the side of what's right. But now I feel a little bit uh, worried, and I seen a lot of what's going on: the violence, the riots, the cities burning, people not taking time to wait for information to come out on these cases, whether it's Kenosha,
mhm.
Atlanta, whatever. Um, I said, I don't know if I can get behind this anymore. And it's not the sentiment. Black Lives Matter, of course. The
Mhm.
sentiment is 100% true.
Mhm.
It's the movement in and of itself, the organization, that I didn't know if I could get behind. My tone changed a little bit, whether it was socially and politically. because I've seen a lot of people not denouncing and condemning this terrible things that were going on in the name of these Black people that ended up dying.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't see how any change or good could come from this. And I think in the end, it's been used against them more so than good for them.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I guess that's more so my question to you is after you hear like what ended up changing my viewpoint, what ended up making me feel this way, why I'm not for the movement in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how would you like respond to that kind of information?
Man, I'm gonna try to answer this as quick and as accurately as possible, but it's one
Right,
of those things to where it deserves a nice, like, healthy answer. You got to start from the very beginning.
right,
Why was everybody so unified and so willing to work with each other and get out in the streets, and they was all so upset? First reason is because most of the country has been in quarantine.
right,
Most of the country has lost their jobs. Most of the country are going through a hard time. We're scared. We're worried. And on top of that, we just watched a man get killed by the police in one of the most vicious ways you could possibly watch it.
right.
That's bringing everybody outside the house. Now, I don't know if you're used to like Black movements in this country,
Right, right,
but this is what happens, all right? There's a problem, right? Black people get angry. Black people take to the streets and they protest. Not you, but a lot of the white people in this country are angered by those protests.
right.
And they do and say things to discredit the protests. Like, for instance, we look at Colin Kaepernick, right?
Yep.
Do you see what the NFL is doing right now and saying right now? And people in general, for the most part, now they're agreeing with what Colin Kaepernick said. Do you
Right.
remember when it first happened?
Yep.
Nobody was agreeing with him. They were saying he was a selfish, rich boy. He was tripping and all that other stuff. This is what happens in Black movements. We come out and we address the problem that we're having. At some point, that movements get hijacked and it moves from the problem that we're having to a problem that's not really there. You know what I mean? Like, for instance,
Right.
they were saying that Colin Kaepernick hated the military and hated the American flag. That was never his protest, ever.
Right. Right.
It was police brutality from the beginning.
Yep.
It somehow became about the military and the government because he was kneeling during the national anthem. You know what I
Right.
mean? So his protest was hijacked. It was no longer what he was talking about. Now, with the Black Lives Matter, we're saying Black Lives Matter, okay?
Right.
If you hear something about, white people is bad and we need to do this, we need to defund the police and do all, it's about recognizing that Black people should be alive too. They shouldn't be suffering.
Right.
Like, you shouldn't be so quick to hurt a Black person too. You know what I mean? So
Right.
anything that you hear that's opposite of that, because just think about it. Let's say a bunch of people are protesting and they're all like being peaceful. Nobody's doing nothing, right? And the news cameras is there. Let's say one of those peaceful protesters breaks off and he goes and busts a window. Who are those news cameras going to follow? Truthfully.
Yeah, they're going to follow
They're going to follow all the people that's not doing nothing, or they're going to go after the guy that just bust the window.
Bust through the window.
And this is how the internet works as far as sensationalism. If you're watching a video, like a cute video of a woman like playing with her cat, right? People may comment, people may like it, people may share it, right?
Right.
But if you see a bunch of people burning down buildings and protesting and a lot of people are gonna have a lot of stuff to say, and there's gonna be a lot of interaction on that video. Those videos are pushed through social media because of the algorithm and on all platforms on social media.
Right.
So everywhere you look, you're going to see people burning down buildings and breaking stuff. And it's going to seem like it's all this violence that's going on. And it's not. For the most part, our message of Black Lives Mattering, it's once again, as routinely this happens all the time, it's being taken over and being turned into something else. Now, admittedly, there are some knuckleheads inside of these riots.
Right.
But if you look at any sort of mass protest, you're going to see a bunch of just random stuff. You know what I mean? You're going to see a lot of disunity because a lot of these people never met each other. They just all gathered together because everybody was angry. You know what I mean? And yeah, there's going to be people out there. It's a large group of people, of random people. Yes, people are going to break stuff. Yes, people are going to burn stuff. Yes, people are going to do dumb things. Is that what the movement is about, though? Is that the reason that they're out there? You understand what I'm saying?
Right.
So a lot of people, especially on the right, just hear me out. Just hear me out.
Right, I'm listening.
Sometimes you can score political points off of this type of stuff with your base. You know what I mean?
Right.
And don't get me wrong, the left does it too. The left absolutely does it. If they see an opportunity to score some political points, they're gonna pull that trigger. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the point is to be mindful of that. You know what I mean? Don't get distracted by people trying to take away from the message. I know, like everybody, even the people that says all lives matter, they're trying to say that we're saying just Black Lives Matter or only Black Lives Matter. We've never said that.
Right.
We're literally trying to get to the point to where all lives matter. We're trying to get there.
Right.
And by people saying all lives matter, that's basically saying there's nothing wrong and there's nothing that needs to be fixed. We already agree that everybody's life matters. So I don't think this extra attention needs to be paid to Black people. I don't think this extra attention needs to be paid to what's going on in their plight in this country. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's why that statement is so offensive. And people in their minds is like, well, how can you be offended by somebody saying all lives matter? How could you be offended by that? You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep.
Because that means that we feel a certain way and you're ignoring it. You're ignoring how we feel. You know what I mean? We're trying to express and tell you. And the worst part about that is it makes the riots worse. Because when you feel that you're already angry and you feel that people aren't listening to you, that makes it worse. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's an entire and that's just my like quick in a nutshell type of, you know what I'm saying, like putting it together.
Yeah.
But a lot goes into it. For the most part, there's a lot of like conspiracy theories out there too.
Right.
And the conspiracy theories, they're not based in reason or logic at all.
Right.
And that causes even further like distrust and just hatred in America, you know? So it's one of those things where I would have to say the people who are like organizers for Black Lives Matter, they need to put out what they want. Put it out.
Right.
And let everybody know, hey, this is what we believe. What was that?
The beans spilled.
Yeah, Bijo. But Black Lives Matter, they need to put out what they want and what they're about. Because once you have that, then boom, you can say, this is what we want, this is what we're about. If you see anybody doing something outside of this right here, that ain't us. Because if you notice, Black Lives Matter, you don't have to like show an ID to get inside of a protest.
Right.
We've known that there's been certain white supremacists to get inside a Black Lives Matter protest and start anarchy.
Right.
Because the first one person busts a window, the next person be like, yeah, I'm gonna bust a window too, you know?
Yeah.
And not to mention, especially here in Chicago, where I'm from, Black people, my people, will take advantage of the situation to go rob a store, go rob and get some jewelry, go rob and get some clothes. They're not really for Black Lives Matter.
Right.
But people, they'll get on the news and be like, oh, look at these Black Lives Matter protesters. They call them protesters. They're not protesters. They're opportunists. And they're using the Black Lives Matter banister to be opportunists.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And but when you watch it on the news, you're like, man, look at them Black Lives Matter protesters running inside of that Foot Locker, getting all the Jordans and stuff. Those aren't Black Lives Matter protesters. Those are opportunists. So People need to learn what Black Lives Matter is about and what they stand for, and be able to recognize when you see people who ain't standing for that and ain't doing and holding themselves accountable to the message, you know? Because I
Right.
stand for Black Lives Matter. I will go out and protest. I will go out and march, but I'm
Right.
not going to go rob a store. I'm not going to go bust a window. I'm not going to go burn anybody's business down. I'm not doing that.
Right.
And I'm not like an official member. I'm just a person who, when it comes to my concerns, I know how to address my concerns and not do it from an emotional standpoint or from a standpoint that hurts my cause. You know what I mean?
Right.
The same way I won't go to a Kingdom Hall and do a Kingdom Hall crash because I feel like it would hurt my cause.
Yep.
I feel like it would confirm in a lot more people's mind than it will wake people up what they already think about apostates or people who are ex-Jehovah Witnesses. I will not go out and punch a Trump supporter in the face or bust a window or burn a business down. I'm not going to do that. Most Black
Right.
Lives Matter supporters who actually want to see change and who are actually out there to bring about unity in the country, they won't do that. So that's
Right.
the thing. The narrative has been hijacked.
Right.
And
That's
it depends on what channel you're watching, because like I say, I don't care what channel you watch. If somebody busting windows and burning businesses down, the cameras are focused on them.
right.
But the people like me who are actually just out there trying to bring on change in America,
Right.
we're not as sexy as busting a window.
Right. Yeah.
So it's just one of those things, man. Don't get distracted by all that mess, man. If you see
Right.
somebody busting a window, burning a building, doing all, they not Black Lives Matter.
Right.
You do not
That
have
makes
to
sense.
show ID to get inside of that protest.
Right.
And
Man.
any of our like white brothers and sisters that's out there fighting for us, if you see them beating up somebody and stumping somebody, that don't mean they Antifa. Antifa isn't even a real organization. Like there's like no leadership or no like, you know, it's just a bunch of people that's like, hey, I'm anti-fascist. I'm Antifa. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Now there are people, like I say, who are white supremacists who claim to be Antifa and they go there just to start trouble. I've seen a bunch of Antifa people get tackled by Black Lives Matter protesters or other like Antifa people and get turned over to the police because they was causing trouble. I've seen it happen a bunch of times. A bunch of times. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Man, look,
I can talk about that one for hours.
Right.
Man.
Well, I mean, I really appreciate it. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit here, and we had a really nice discussion, man. I really liked it. I mean, if you're ever interested to continue the discussion and have another one, please, let me know. Reach out. I'm always down to chat and talk some more about this. I'd love to hear some more of your side and maybe have another back and forth. So
absolutely.
I want to give you time to go make some dinner for the kids and whatnot, whatever it might be. So
somehow they got pizza. I don't know where it came from. I want something.
Yeah, me too. What's going on, man?
Where y'all get that pizza from?
Mommy gave it to us. It was actually very good.
Yeah, I want some pizza.
All right, man. Well, I really appreciate it. You have a good rest of your night, man.
Hey, I appreciate it too, man. I'm gonna get online one of these days. You look like your online setup is lit, bro.
Right, man. Please, yeah, we'll play whatever you want to play. I got it. Come on,
For sure. I gotta get me something though. My system is old as ever.
Right, there you go.
All right, man. You have a good day, right?
All right, you too. Thank you again, man.
All right, no problem at all.
We'll see you.
Peace.